Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are in the Montana. I know I didn't say back. Caught you off guard, didn't I? But before we get started, if you guys are enjoying what I do, make sure you guys punch that like button and subscribe if you're not already. It's completely free. You can unsubscribe at any time if you don't like what I'm doing. But if you're here day after day watching what I do, punch that subscribe button for me. Join the Spartan Army/Navy. Be a part of something great. Now, Montana, as you guys know, in the recent update, is now buffed. It's buff Monty. Again, I didn't think it needed a buff, but I'm down for it because it's one of my favorite ships to play. So why would I be upset with a buff to one of my favorite ships? That being said, the gameplay you're about to see is going to be us playing relatively passively early on because I anticipate the match playing out a specific way, and that is not how this match plays out. This is a weird match. It's one of those matches where everybody goes one direction, and that one direction, not the band, is away from me. It's weird. Now, also, I got to give a big shout out to Big J, who happened to be in this game, also in the Montana. Great minds think alike. I'll leave a link down to his channel down in the description or down in the comments section for you guys. But yeah, we've got a first look here at the Carl, who's making an absolutely banger turn. We're all about this. Unfortunately, we do get detected, and that's going to stop him from making that turn, and he's actually going to get turned back in enough and not really take that much damage out of this, which is highly unfortunate because I was expecting a huge hit. We took no damage from us. That's unfortunate. Now, I don't normally go behind the island, especially with a battleship, but again, don't know what's out here. I'm not anticipating like everybody on the enemy team going away from us. So basically, for the next couple of minutes, you guys are going to see me struggle to get in position to do anything. But don't worry, it all comes back to us. It's fine. One of the beautiful things about when a team does what these guys are doing, which is running away from one spawn to go all the way across map, also did not lead this enough. Remember, 19.5 kilometers. Difficult to land shots consistently on fast-moving targets who can turn. But we are going to go behind the island. Again, I understand this is not the necessarily the best concept, but you gotta think. I've been playing in this moment. When I got this, I was playing the Centurion all night and the Venezia all night. So when I was trying to play, I think this was Venezia night actually. The other Montana video I got was Centurion night. But I'm playing a bunch of games in newer ships, and I'm trying to learn new things, and things aren't going well. So sometimes I jump in a familiar ship in between while I wait for the ship to come back, and these sorts of games happen. And what happens is I start playing a little bit different than I normally do because I just want to get something good for the night. And so I try to play a little bit more passively. The enemy all goes one way. They kind of lemming train. The Neptune gets absolutely yeeted, which he should have. I mean, going full broadside in front of our entire team over there is not ideal. I think we can all agree. I am being followed by another battleship, which is also not ideal. And this is a Yamato. The Yamato that's behind us is going to showcase his ineptitude later on, and we'll try to call it out. And again, not calling out people for the sense of like embarrassment or hate or anything like that, just pointing out things that people do that you can learn from. Remember, we have a video that we just put out called Don't Be a Yamater or How to Play Yama Better. Highly recommend. If you don't know, check that video out. I go over a lot of good things that'll help you be better in the Yamato. Now, finally, as we come around the back side of the island, we're going to be putting ourselves in a position where we're going to finally be able to get some shots on something. Again, don't recommend going around the island. It was just one of those situations where I made a decision early on that I was going to go here, and the enemy team made a decision to screw me over by going away from us. Normally, you would have 3 to 4 ships on this side of the map, and you'd be shooting people the entire time as you're getting ready to come around the island and all that. But we do have a beautiful look here at the Johan, finally catching a beautiful angle, and we are finally going to get some damage 4 minutes into this match. But it's a 10,800 damage, so we'll take it. The destroyer is the Kleber. These guys have all been fighting. By the way, Big J is on the opposite flank as us. He's the battleship in the very far corner left of the map. He spawned over there, he moved over to that corner, and he's actually going to do everything he can to hold that side. And I believe he ends up having a decent game over there. But our team is pretty well positioned. We've got guys in the middle, we've got guys on the left, we've got guys on the right. What does this lead up to? Well, this leads to a whole bunch of people surrounding and shooting at everybody, and this is what we call crossfires. Despite it taking us longer than it probably should have to get to a position, where we have the crossfires. We now have the crossfire, and now it's time to set up a pincher. What is a pincher? Pincher is a flanking maneuver where you come around the backside of the enemy and you force them into the rest of your team, right? So our teams are well positioned for crossfires. I am going to be coming up from behind these guys for crossfires, and these guys are going to have to make the conscious decision to either pay attention to me or pay attention to the rest of my team. This is the whole purpose of a crossfire, and a pincher just kind of amplifies this by putting more pressure, by closing the distance on a flank to really hammer home that these guys are in trouble, right? And what happens next is people start realizing they're in trouble and they all come back. And that leads to us having a fantastic game. And Big J, unfortunately, him and his teammate down there in the bottom, as you can see by that cruiser being broadside currently, probably not going to go so well for them. But Big J is going to fight his butt off over there, but he's outnumbered. And his entire team has come back as we absolutely wallop that man for, what was it, 19,000 damage? Bringing us up to 42,000. That is the power of the Montana when you get into these crossfire situations. You have an incredible amount of firepower that you can unleash at any given moment, and with the new the new buff, we're more accurate than ever, and we're tankier than ever. So we are a perfect situation for what this ship should be doing, right? Look at that. Yama shoots at us, we angle, we take basically nothing back. We don't get a great shot on him, I get it. We're going for the home run hits into the cheek, and he starts reversing, so we don't get the shots that we want there. Our Alaska's pushing forward, and there is one other person that I want to point out in this game. There is a Takahashi in this game that is an absolute giga chad, and I'll shout him out when we get the chance. But as you can see, all of these battleships, they're in trouble. Johan's running away, Kleber's here. I'm hoping that I can get a shot on this Kleber. He's low health, but this Kleber's not an idiot. He's actually going to slow down and stop and juke me out like an absolute chad, taking out our Kleber in the process, or at least the enemy Izumo took out our Kleber. But that leaves the Kleber with very low hit points, and he's still a big threat, especially as you consider the Alaska, the Yama behind me, and I are pushing into the enemy cap. Now, this game may have taken a while to get going, but we got to try to get rid of this Yama. He is burning, and he goes down. Beautiful. Now we've got the Johan out here. I want to try to get rid of him as well, because the sooner we can get rid of these guns, the better. That being said, Johan isn't really doing anything to be a threat to anybody on our team. And we are getting some of the worst goddamn dispersion you have ever seen, despite our buff to supposedly be more accurate than ever. You gotta love it. RNG giveth, and RNG taketh away. Right? But in that same regard, you got to understand, and if you look, Big J has actually beached himself on an island down there in the bottom right, or the bottom of the map. So he's probably not long for this world at this point. But we get another shot, just trying to finish off this Johan, and this time they run into each other. We end up hitting the Iwami out there, but it's just an awkward game. Like, everything about this game was awkward. Now, Zhao manages to take out our Musashi, which is not ideal. We got two cruisers in the bottom left corner doing what they got to do over there. I've got a couple of battleships here. I do have a Yama behind me, despite the Alaska going down, which is real unfortunate because he was our radar. You can see the Takahashi is starting to move up behind us. Okay? Now, we get an absolutely beautiful salvo into the superstructure of the Iwami. Iwami shoots HE at us. And this is something that I just don't understand, man. Why are all these Japanese ships shooting HE? Like, I get it in the sense of, like, bad players are not going to understand when to use AP, when to use HE. And they just stay using HE all the time. Now, if he switches, more power to him. Maybe he had that loaded for shooting at the destroyer earlier or whatever. I don't know. But either way, I'm going to let the fire burn because I can heal it back. I got 2 more heals. The main thing is I don't want to be over-angled to this Izumo right now. The Izumo is going to put himself in a position where I am trying. You can see the torpedoes coming from either the Kleber or the Iwami out there. I forget what the Iwami's torp range is, but it's pretty decent if I remember correctly. But Izumo goes full broadside to our Yama, and what's our Yama do? Yama shoots HE at him. There's the Kleber torps coming in, and Kleber takes down our Yama. And you can see at this point, I'm getting in chat, and I'm getting a little upset. But Izumo, we go for the home run, hitting the superstructure. We do just enough to leave him with enough to try to ram us. And at this point, I am like, oh God, I gotta get out of here. You see, I'm turning away, I'm trying to get away, and surprisingly, he turns away too. I don't know if he was anticipating me continuing to, like, get around him, And so he made a turn to the left there. But I've already set him on fires with our secondaries. I know that that's a perma-fire, so I am at this point going for the broadside look on the Iwami. And the Takahashi actually gets the fire and kills him. But we get a huge hit, 24,000 damage on the Iwami. Takahashi has pushed himself into a position. I end up leaving the cap here, which is not necessarily the right play, but I do know that the enemy Kleber is nearby, and I don't want to put myself in a situation where I die. Because you never know when the game might come down to just you. So trying to preserve your hit points, play smart as best you can, is absolutely something that you need to be thinking about in these close games. Very rarely at Legendary Tier do we get these kind of really super close games. And you can see we get another decent shot. Didn't quite lead him enough there, so we didn't get quite as much damage. But our Takahashi is going to unfortunately take the brunt of the damage here as we try to make our turn back in. And you can see, realizing that the Kleber has a huge weakness right now. After the Kleber was absolutely hammered with the Nerf bat, the torpedoes just don't have that much range. So in these situations, what you want to avoid is going at a Kleber, because that makes him much easier for you to torpedo, because you're coming towards him. So the range isn't as bad. He can stay stealthy and manage to torpedo. But much better result that time on the Iwami. He's burning because of the Takahashi. And so we are just trying to get rid of this man at this point. Now, surely our battleship that's in the middle of the map, who's broadside to everybody on the left side of the map, will not get himself killed, right? You guys can already see where this is going. But we get a beautiful shot straight into the superstructure. Takahashi has taken a beating. And again, I tried to get their attention, but unfortunately, you see a juicy cruiser, especially like a DPM cruiser like the Takahashi, torpedo cruiser, whatever you want to call it. You got to take those shots as a battleship. I get it. Trying to get rid of that big hit, or that annoying little nuisance. But Des Moines manages to take down the friendly FDG, which just leaves the Takahashi and I. Takahashi is hurting, right? He has taken the brunt of the damage here late in this game. I do have a heal left, and so we're going to go ahead and use that. Probably used it a little prematurely, but I did want to make sure that I had all my health ready to go. The Takahashi being in the cap right now has been huge. But I'm trying to get over there to help the man out because I can't see what he sees. And he goes full broadside in front of, I believe it was a Zhao and a Des Moines. And that is a terrible turn. So, unfortunate for him, he's not going to survive this engagement. You can't go broadside like this in front of a Des Moines and a Zhao. But he goes down. But that left it for a moment in time. It left it a 4v1. Which means Solo Warrior is on the table. And he managed to take out the Zhao, so trade is trade, we'll take it. As he took out the Zhao, he opens the door for us because we're very close. Now, I get into the cap here. I know that the Kleber is here, so we've got to be smart here. I also know that I can easily take out a Des Moines at mid to long range. And so this guy's in trouble. I overmatched. There's nothing he can do. He's not playing very particularly well here by staying mostly stationary. He almost goes into the torpedo here as he does try to start moving. But again, if you're in an agile cruiser like a Des Moines and you're up against something that you know overmatches you, you gotta make sure that you do not stay stationary because it's just never going to end in your favor. And we get a very lucky depth strike, or not depth strike, but a very lucky Citadel through the deck armor. And that gets us close enough to be able to flip this points lead. Now, I know that if I stay in the cap, they are not accruing points. We are. They're not contesting our cap like we are them. So we are getting points, they are not. So every tick of the points gets us closer to taking the lead. Now, you got to be careful when doing this. You don't want to leave too early because there's always a chance that maybe their points tick up one second before you and you lose the game. So you want to give yourself a little bit of a buffer in points so that you have a chance. Now, we have less than a minute and a half down. We've put up 185,000 damage. The Johan has run off to God knows where to not help his team. That is unfathomable. I understand you're low health. He probably thought, well, if I stay alive, maybe we win this on points. But unfortunately, with me in the cap, that's not the case. And the Kleber launches his torpedoes, but again, we were anticipating this, so we're turning away. We're running. There is no reason for us to engage. We have done everything needed of us. There is no way for the Kleber to get across the map and get into the cap. He has to kill us. Johan is nowhere near to help. So the only way that we lose this at this point is by the Kleber killing me. And if I turn and run, he's not going to be able to torp me, which means he's got to do 50,000 damage to me with his guns in the next 30 seconds. Needless to say, that is not going to happen. So we are going to pick up our solo warrior. This is a very rare medal for me to get in particular as a battleship main, because you have to have just the right situation unfold for it to happen. And in this case, we did everything that we needed to do. It was an awkward start, but we put ourselves in a good position, took advantage of what had to be done, got some help from a Giga Chad and a Takahashi. Love that guy. Just try not to go full broadside to Des Moines next time. Probably not a good idea. But at least he killed the Zhao and gave us the chance for this to work. If the Zhao gets away, we lose. Simple as that. But we end up with 185,000 damage, solo warrior, high caliber, top of the leaderboard with 2,400, with the Takahashi Giga Chad coming in second. So Emarian Ace, I apologize if I said that wrong, but Emarian Ace, thank you so much, and GG's. So if you guys like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.